Thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Dr. Joycelyn Hughes, and I am presenting tonight on behalf of iDissertate, which is a business that I started to support people who are looking to start their doctoral journey and or continue their doctoral journey and are in need of some support. So, of course, you know that deciding to work on your doctoral studies is a very big decision to make. It's not something that anyone should take or understand as something light. It is a heavy load, but it's a wonderful, wonderful experience, especially when you have the support. It doesn't mean that it's not hard. We all know that there's 2% of the world's population has a doctoral degree. So we know that it's not an easy journey, but when you are informed, either before you start or even if you're in the midst of it, it doesn't matter where you are. When you have better understanding of what to expect, how to prepare yourself mentally, how to prepare yourself as far as resources, it just makes all the difference in the world. And so my aim is to be supportive to as many people as I can. And as we grow iDissertate, we grow our team, that we are able to support as many people as possible to earn their doctorate degree, because we know that that is a degree that allows not only doors to be opened for you, for us, but it gives you more leverage to be able to open doors for yourself and for others. And so I do hope to be an example of that. So again, I commend you for joining me tonight. I know those of you on the East Coast, it is rather late, but I want to be respectful for our time and also those on other coasts, and try to plan my meetings, my workshops in a time that I know people are relatively still awake. So even still, I thank you so much for joining me. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Before we go any further, I have to acknowledge, and we all should be acknowledging that we are indeed in the middle of a global crisis, a global pandemic. And so, of course, before all else, we are all human beings. We all belong to people. We're parts of communities, parts of families, and we individually are valuable and we're dealing with a pandemic that is just taking a toll on all of us on so many levels. So even more so, I want to commend you for joining me tonight, that you're even in the mental space of a doctoral degree, especially during a season where we are just so bombarded by this global pandemic. And so I pray and hope that you are safe and that you are well, and you will continue to do so as we move toward the end of this horrible global crisis. And so, again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I didn't want to fail to mention that, this may sound a little trivial, but in the midst of crisis is an opportunity for you to reinvent yourself. We are all at home, and if we're not, we should be. And we are seeing a lot of things on television. Those of us who are tuned into CNN, MSNBC, we're watching the world crumble, the world as we know it crumble. However, not only are we watching this, but we're also being forced to examine our own selves, our individual selves. And so I don't know about you, but I know for me, I have had no choice but to think, but to reflect, to grieve, to rejoice, and to be in the moment of each of those stages of this time at home. And so I want to make sure that I talk to you briefly about the possibility of reinvention during this crisis. Of course, hopefully, most of us are still working. And if we're not, again, it's a good opportunity to reinvent yourself. So for me, in 2008, I'm sure you all remember that horrible time. We were in a national recession. Jobs were being lost left and right. And I was one of those people. I lost two jobs that year. I was in the beginning. I had just started my master's program at Holy Names University in Oakland, California. Shout out to them. And I couldn't find any work. I couldn't find anywhere to work. And I'm talking about someone who is resourceful, who has skills, who, had her bachelor's and then some, had some things going for her that made me, and I want to talk about myself in third person, but, I was an eligible worker, right? I should have been. I felt I should have been. It should have been easy for me to find jobs, but I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I tried, and I tried. I sent for all kinds of jobs and didn't get any callbacks. And so I went through a depression. And it was a very, very dark place because I started to question my worth. Like, wow, even right now, I can't find someone who sees something in me. I was used to someone seeing something, but I felt like no one was seeing that I could be an asset to their organization or to their company. And I went through some things. As you all get to know me, you will know I'm a very transparent person. And I think one of my strengths is my transparency and letting you know straight up, I'm a human being. I'm accomplished, but I'm a human being. And I go through, as we all do, these emotions of questioning. I have gone through that, questioning my worth. And that definitely was a season of that. But about 2 years later, things started to turn around. Of course, Barack Obama got elected and I was getting unemployment and he kept extending. But what I did is I kept going to school. It was hard. It was stressful. I know to this day, my professors probably acknowledged my growth because they probably were tired of me. I questioned everything. I had time to think. I had time to be upset, and I had time to critically think about everything. And so I kept going to school though. And at the end of it, I said, you know what, I went through this transition. I went through this breaking season, broke me to humility. But in that place, I learned. I spoke, I critically thought, I paid attention, I hurt, and then I rejoiced as I slowly got out of that depressive stage of my life. And also I found my educational niche while I was at Holy Names University. Of course, they were preparing us for teaching in K through 12 schools, specifically in urban communities. So my master's degree is in urban education with an urban focus, I should say. But I found that I really, really care about, even more so that I knew I cared about marginalized communities because I was a part of that. I'm a product of that. I'm from Oakland, California, and I really, really care about the education of Black students because I see continuously how they're being failed educationally. So I found my narrative. I found what I wanted to contribute to. You see here that I'm here again. So I am employed. I work for Howard University and I love Howard University. However, I'm also Dr. Joycelyn Hughes, and this is a season of reinvention for me. So, I continue my work at Howard, but I'm reinventing myself by extending what it is that I have gained to others and extending it in a way that I've been doing for years, but never really put a name to it, never really put a stamp on it. And so I've done that, and this is how iDissertate came to be, and it is part of a bigger project called the Urban Education Equity Project. And I'll talk about that more later today, but definitely tomorrow and in the future. But we are here to talk about the doctoral process and dissertation. So just quickly, I learned through the years that I'm really good at academic advice, and I've been doing that for years. I was doing that when I was going to Laney College in Oakland, California. I was advising myself because my mom was a counselor and her friends were counselors, and they taught me how to go into course catalogs and map out my academic plan. And so I started helping others do that, and I've been doing that ever since. Even at Howard as a doctoral student, I was doing it then. I'm systems minding, meaning I can identify patterns that work and those that just simply do not. I'm really good at that. And that has a lot to do with my background, both educationally and as far as my part in the workforce. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm an innovator. I take initiative. I love helping people. and I'm ever growing. Stagnation is not an option for me. And so this is another reason why I felt like it was very important to do this iDissertate workshop, because some people just get stagnant. Some of us have heard of ABD, all but dissertation. So we've done all the coursework, but you still haven't done dissertation. And so I definitely want to support people to say, listen, let's do this. Let's get it done. Let's get this dissertation finished so that you can go ahead and move forward and contribute in the way that you know you should be contributing to the narrative, to your respective narrative, and to your respective practice. And so this is a season for reinvention and moving past stagnation. So again, thank you for joining me tonight. Here are the intentions of my presentation. Again, briefly discuss the Urban Education Equity Project, and most importantly, the iDissertate portion of that, which is why you're here. And with that, we'll talk briefly. We only have about an hour and a half. Choosing your topic, doctoral studies and scholarship, choosing the right institution, and leveraging your courses for writing your dissertation. And tomorrow, here's some of the things that I'll discuss. The intention of that presentation is to revisit the Urban Education Equity Project. Most importantly, again, iDissertate. Seeking counsel. I want us to talk about seeking counsel from faculty. Identifying theoretical alignment with research inquiry. Honoring your own genius and being open to learn. And then I'll have a Q&A, and then we can talk about next steps for those of you who would like for me to walk with them through their doctoral journey. So quickly, my educational background, I really tried to simplify this. I have 3 associate degrees. I graduated from Laney College in Oakland, California. Grew up at that school. My mother was a employee, staff, faculty there for over 30 years. And so I went there. But I earned every degree. I have one in liberal arts, arts and humanities, and social sciences. They all seem kind of similar, but I did enough coursework to get all 3 of those. I have a bachelor's degree from New College of California, San Francisco, which was an activist. It's no longer here. It's defunct, but it was an activist social justice college in San Francisco, and one of the best educational experiences that I've ever had. I went to seminary for 2 years. Many people do not know that, but I went to the American Baptist Seminary of the West in Berkeley, California. I left the seminary for very specific reasons I can discuss with those of you who will allow me to walk with you through your academic journey. However, it was a wonderful journey, the time, and I built a really nice group of friends at that institution. And then I earned my master's degree again at Holy Names University in Oakland, California, in education with an urban focus. And just to summarize, I have 15 years plus in the education field, K through 12 and higher education. So I do come with a lot of experience, a lot of insight, and a passion. You know, I'm still in my 30s. I'll be in my 40s soon, but I have a proven record of being dedicated to empowering people through educating them. And so just lastly, hopefully, I think this is last, some of the formal research I've done during my academic studies, and this really doesn't capture everything, but these are the main things. I did complete a thesis for my bachelor's degree, and I wanted to talk about the destruction of Black families. That was where my mind was. I really wanted to be a marriage and family therapist, specifically for marginalized communities, and I chose to talk about how American society has really done a number on the structure of Black families. Of course, I did a thesis for my master's, which is not a given these days. I learned once I started working on my doctorate that not everyone does a thesis, not everyone completes a thesis. But I did, and that really helped me to fine-tune my studies as a doctoral student. My thesis was what are the rewards and challenges African American teachers perceive when teaching African American students. And so, again, that really set me up for understanding what research is. And then I'm 5 times published. I'm 3 times published in the Journal for Negro Education. I have additional research pending right now, specifically with a friend of mine, a colleague of mine now at UTEP, University Texas, El Paso. And some other projects. So I am engaged in research still. So what is the Urban Education Equity Project? Well, the aim of this project is to investigate and present evidence-based solutions for dissolving inequitable educational experiences. And how will we do that? We'll do that through research. We'll do that through professional development, facilitation, and presenting, talking to people, going out there and speaking. I think right now, such a project is so necessary. We've always had this, community organizers, educators, and so many educators are activists. So many researchers are activists. They've been here, we've been here, but I think right now, because of the space that we're in and how COVID-19 has really, really exposed so many injustices, and that is inclusive of education, that it is ample time to really make sure that those of us who want to address social injustice to do so now. And one of the best ways you can do that is with research. It is a tool that should be utilized. And so I'm, again, so glad you're joining me tonight so that you can work on your dissertation for whatever reason. But just know that research is activism. So what is iDissertate, which is a wing of the Urban Education Equity Project? Our aim is to help you perfect your contribution to the narrative. And so why are we here? And this is all a brief discussion. The dissertation process it can be lonely. There's just no way of getting around that. The coursework, and you see that I have it here, the coursework, getting to know my professors, feeling free. I felt so free, and I think I saw Mr. Labrie on the call. He and I went to Howard together. We had wonderful professors. That was a great experience, getting to know our professors. And I really felt like, and this was at Howard, I really felt like with my professors, I was allowed to really just dive in on who Joycelyn was and what she wanted to talk about in the field of education. That is the best feeling in the world. The hardest part of my doctoral journey was dissertation, and it was lonely. It was a haze. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was what it was. And so I know firsthand what that pressure is. I know firsthand the tears, and I'm not exaggerating. I know firsthand the feelings of feeling like an imposter. And I mean, there's so many emotions that come with it. And like I tell people, it really tried every fiber of my being. Now, the selfish thing for me to do is to earn my doctorate and then go ahead and go about my business, get my career going, make money, and, move along. But that's not who I am. Who I have always been is to get, to earn, to receive, to learn. And then guess what? It's my turn now to pass it on so that they, the next person can do the same and they can pass it on. I understand the ripple effect of being, not being selfish with your growth. But part of that journey in the dissertation process was being alone, doubting. I doubted myself. I didn't feel supported. And through my coursework with my professors, I felt supported I felt supported up until then. And I'm not going to say all professors. I'm definitely not going to say it. There were some was like, thank God they were there, but there was such a contrast with my courses, as far as my experience, and then dissertation, just feeling really lonely, and the time seemed so short. It just felt like some days, some weekends, I would work on my dissertation and I finished 2 pages. That was unheard of to me. And so it just seemed like the months were just flying by, and I had a deadline for myself of when I wanted to graduate, and the time IRB process. I mean, everything was it just felt like it felt so long and so quick at the same time. It was really hard. So there are dissertation support services out there. So most dissertation support services only provide editing services. But the difference is we will provide personal hands-on approaches to supporting your academic journey. And this is inclusive of small group webinars, bi-weekly one-on-one coaching, individualized coaching plans, a dissertation guide, and then providing, which is very important, providing information about funding your your doctoral journey. That is very, very important. And then two, editing. And so for those of you who have already started your dissertation, you know that editing obviously is a big part of the obviously the completion of your dissertation. And so we definitely want to support you, but we want to support the whole process, not just tell you you didn't do it in APA 7th edition and this comma is missing. And no, we want to support you, with knowing that you have someone that you can call, that you have a regular schedule with, that you can meet with, and that will help push you and help move you along with your doctoral process, your dissertation process, so that when you do go back to your dissertation advisor, your academic advisor, that you come with some support, you come with some meat, some meat of information, and also some productivity. And so we want to support your whole process. And so tomorrow, if you'll join me, I will provide more information about that. So this is very important to me. Because as I told you, I'm very transparent, and I do operate from a place of morals. And I understand that research can be misleading. And I do understand that the doctoral journey and dissertation can be used as a weapon, and as something, and in a good way and a bad way, but also it can be used in ways that is not that does not align with what I believe. And so iDissertate, the Urban Education Equity Project, we do want to operate from a place of consciousness, meaning responsibility, social responsibility, that if we're helping you, that you are moving in a way that makes sense to the progression and the betterment of people's lives. Because if that's not the aim, then what are we doing, right? So what is your why? Are you here for careerism? And mind you, if you are, that's fine to a certain degree. No one is oblivious to the fact that when you get a doctorate or whatever degree, any degree that you earn, it is a step further. It's a step further towards better pay, better opportunities, a better life. We understand that. But sometimes careerism really can be counterproductive. And so I just want to make sure that all of the doctoral or future doctoral graduates that we work with are ever self-evaluating. Where am I coming from? Am I still aligned with why I started? So that's a question to ask yourself. Why? Am I just focused on a career, on job security, prestige? Those are all things that is expected, right? Especially when you're working on your doctorate. But is that it? Is that all? Is that all? Are you looking to change some narratives? Are you looking to positively impact communities? Are you looking to train and to teach? And so these are questions that I want all of you to ask yourself. Just make sure you're very clear about your why, and make sure that no matter what it is, even if it's clearly something that iDissertate, the Urban Education Equity Project, does not agree with, know your why and you stick to it. But find resources, find people that are in alignment with your why. Make sure you are doing things in alignment with your why, and make sure you're clear on your why. Make sure you're clear on your why. We encourage integrity, moral, and honest research for societal global progression. And so, again, just what is your why? Make sure you think about that and take time to really think about that. Take your time to really think about that. So I didn't talk about my dissertation, but here it is. Like I told you, when I was working on and as a matter of fact, I should say this, I left seminary after 2 years because education looked so good to me. And mind you, my mom, I did grow up with an educator in the house, but I never thought that I would be an educator too. I always thought I'd be a musician, and I was, and I still am. I know once a musician, always a musician. But I didn't think that I would go the route that I did. I didn't even think I was going to get my bachelor's. I had given up on the thought. But then I messed around, went to Laney, got straight A's my first time. I was like, oh, okay. And I just kept going. And I said, let me just keep going to school. And we'll talk about a little bit more about some of this later. But my doctorate in education, I did earn at Howard University, and in fact, the focus is educational leadership and policy studies. I graduated in 2018. I spoke in my graduation. I was the chair of the Graduate Student Advisory Council, and I just had an overall wonderful experience. I really, really took advantage of every opportunity. I was a sponge. I learned, and I found my niche. Okay, so of course, as I kind of mentioned, my research experiences have been heavily focused on the life and education experiences of the African American community. The title of my dissertation is "If Education is Freedom, African-centered education and education preparation programs at historically Black colleges and universities, perceptions of African-American deans and professors." And so the reason why I wanted to write about this is because, and I don't even have to go through my bullets here, because I know in my heart why I ask questions about African-centered education, Black kids or African-American kids in HBCUs, because to me there was a clear line, but the clear line wasn't being done. My question was, why aren't HBCUs providing culturally specific educational experiences for Black children, knowing that we graduate at least 50% of America's Black or African-American teacher workforce, who then work with African-American kids, but they're teaching white standards or Caucasian standards on everything? That was a question that I had. Okay, and that's not to say that students shouldn't learn the American way and American history. They should, but they are a part of that history. And then there's a history that belongs to them that is outside of America altogether. And why aren't Black institutions making sure these Black kids are aware of that? I have questions. And so that's what my research was about. And so in my mind, I said, well, I'm going to ask deans and professors, what are your thoughts about this? And it came to find out they totally agreed. But we've been in such a web of standards and conditioning and a certain way of looking at education that it's hard for a lot of educators to move away from the standardized way of educating. And so we continue to see Black children, brown children, impoverished children experience inequitable educational experiences. And so what I love about my dissertation is there was no research about it. No one said, hey, why aren't HBCUs doing that? No one said it. And so mine does. And so that's my niche. This is a conversation that I have started. And you can do that too. You have an opportunity to start a conversation based on gaps you find in literature, but also with the questions that you have about what you've witnessed, what you've noticed in your own experiences. And so because of this, I am Dr. Joycelyn Hughes, graduate of Howard University 2018. And so I wanted to talk to you all about choosing your topic. So where to start? Well, good research is asking questions about a specific problem. And the reason I have specific underlined is because when you do most people, they come into a doctoral program, they want to save the world, especially if you're doing like more in the social sciences, education, the people work. You are wanting to save the world. And so you're like, maybe I could talk about all of this and all of that. And what your professors will tell you, or they should tell you, and if they don't, I'm telling you, you have to, and you should, and you must find a specific issue to address in your research. You are not going to be able to address everything in your one dissertation. The beautiful thing is you can continue to expand on research as you grow. Post your doctoral studies, you can continue to ask questions and to investigate and create it, talk about it. I mean, you have opportunity to do that, but for your dissertation, and for that matter, any research project or any study that you do thereafter, it needs to be as specific as possible. So you are not going to save the world. You're going to address this one issue in your respective discipline. Okay. And so you're going to find a specific problem, finding a narrative gap in related literature, meaning, you investigate the literature that is already out there as much as possible about your subject. And sometimes you will find, as I did, nobody's talking about it, but there's going to be some conversations that will assist in your questioning. And we'll talk about that more for those of you that will choose to work with us at iDissertate. Identifying theoretical frameworks or testing theories that are already existing to serve as the foundation of your study, and determining the research design suited best to answer the questions narrative gaps present, and ultimately conducting the appropriate investigation to answer those questions. So you want to choose your topic. There's a process in doing that. Most people, I'm not going to say most people. I don't see how you can apply to a doctoral program if you don't have an interest already, a pre-existing interest in an issue. Your professors will help you fine tune. I will help you fine tune what exactly you are trying to investigate. But you already come in with an idea. Okay. Then you're going to utilize your coursework. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. You're going to utilize your courses to help you find resources to help answer those questions. So what I mean by that is you're going to do a literature review. And I think I want to say right offhand that that's the most important part of the foundational work of your dissertation is the literature review. It validates your question. When you find a gap in the literature, it validates why you need to be the one to answer a question or bring up another part of the narrative that no one else has presented, or to challenge a narrative that has been out there that needs to be tested. Okay, and of course, these are things that I can help you with. Where to start as far as doctoral studies and scholarship. So I want you all to really reflect on what you think it means to be a scholar. And the reason I think this is important is because when we think of the term scholar, when many people think of the term scholar, they automatically think, and it's for a whole host of reasons, that they can't equate to such a title. And I'm here to tell you, negatory, that I don't agree with that. You have every piece of potential to be a scholar, and what your scholarship looks like doesn't have to look like everyone else. If that were the case, there wouldn't be the celebrated scholars that we have. We wouldn't have any. The W.B. Du Boises, the Michael Eric Dyson, even Cornel West. The people that make a statement are not people that look like and act like and ask the same questions that everyone else has been doing, asking, being. No. And so I do want you to think about what does it mean to you to be a scholar, and what does it look like for you to be that scholar? I want you to identify what that looks like for you. I say challenge traditional views of scholarship, And another thing is, some people look at scholarship as being a certain race, a certain economic group, and I disagree with that as well. And so I'm saying here that iDissertate challenges all of that. If I didn't challenge the thoughts of what I was taught and who I was taught a scholar is, I would have never earned my doctorate. But I learned during my doctoral studies to honor my own genius, to honor my own contribution. And I'm still doing it. I honor it. I honor the scholar in me. I am a scholar. And so I want you to think about that. And this does go back to the original question of what are your aims for your doctoral studies? If we're questioning scholarship too, like who and what that looks like, you definitely make sure you address why. Why do I want to be a scholar? Why do I want to be a scholar? And question two, if your intention of completing your dissertation has equated in your mind that of being a scholar, or did you just want to complete a dissertation so you can get a job? I mean, just question all of that. Make sure that you are clear about what your aims and goals are. Now, this is very important, choosing the right institution. So quickly, I want to talk about this. When we were going through the recession, at that time, I was getting my hair cut very short. And my barber, who is a pillar in the Oakland community, cuts and bends, he is his barbershop. And when you go into his barbershop, there's just papers everywhere. And he cuts all our hair, my mom's hair, both my brother's hair and my hair. And so when you go into his barbershop, it's a museum of the Black experience. And there's papers everywhere. I remember one of my friends said, he's a hoarder. I said, oh no, absolutely not. This is a jewel of the community and someone who has seen the value of collecting information about us. And so when I sat in his chair one day, I told him about, my thoughts about going ahead and getting a doctorate, because I was in my master's program. And he said, oh, well, you may want to look into Jackson State University because they're paying tuition. And I said, what? Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely be looking into that. And so I remember that day I went home, I went straight to my laptop and I didn't really think about HBCUs. I knew I wanted to go to a prestigious school. I had already figured that, but I didn't think too much about HBCUs. Which is weird to me now, but that's the truth. And so I went and looked at Jackson State. They had an education leadership and administration program, I think it was called. I can't remember now. And even though they were offering free tuition, it just didn't move me. Something in me said, this is not it. But what I decided to do was go ahead and keep looking. And something said Howard University. Now, by this time, Barack Obama was president. He was in the White House. And I remember thinking, well, I mean, I don't have kids. I don't have a significant other. I'm still in school, going to graduate soon. Or maybe, Howard may be a good choice. Let me just look and see. But I wasn't sure. I looked at Howard's website. And those of you who know me, and as you get to know me, others of you, I'm very visual. And so I do websites and there's all kind of things that I do. I wasn't impressed by the website. When I started, I was like, what is this? But I looked into, at that time, it was EAP, Education Administration, I think, program. And chills went up and through my body. And I knew right away that's where I needed to be. And as I continued to read, it aligned, what was on the website aligned with who I knew I was and who I wanted to grow to be. And so I didn't even apply. And I looked at the course scheme, I looked at all of that, and I weighed my options, and I was like, this could work for me. And so I didn't even apply. I did not even apply. Now, this doesn't have to be your story, but I did not apply to another university. I applied to Howard University. And guess what? I got in. But what I did do is I investigated. I looked into Jackson State, and I knew it wasn't for me. It didn't look good to me. I went to Howard. It looked good to me. Now, mind you, mine was 2 institutions. I don't recommend that. I think people should investigate as many institutions that may make sense to their journey. But for me, these were the 2 that I investigated. And it was this one, Howard, was in alignment with who I am and who I knew I wanted to be. So with that, I considered my career goals. I knew that possibly I could be a principal, superintendent. Now, when I did get to Howard and learned everything that superintendents go through, I said, oh no, that's not for me. I said, if anything, I would love to do, research. I would love to possibly be in a school board so that I can support the superintendent. But that's another story. But my point is, consider your career goals. Consider the established scholars at the institution. And so, of course, Howard University is known for its prestige. It's known for its scholarship. It's known, as Dr. Leslie T. Fenwick would say, the intellectual, it has a lot of intellectual wealth. You're surrounded by intellectual wealth at Howard University. It's true. In my dissertation are plenty of scholars at Howard that that I cited in my dissertation. And so you want to consider that. You want to look into where certain scholars that align with your interests are. You want to look at the timeliness. Now, this is very important because some programs are 3 to 4 years. Others, you have up to 7 years because they already know that it's going to take 5 to 7 years to complete your doctoral journey. But 6 to 7 years may not, or 5 to 7 years, 4 to 7, that may not match what you want to do. Maybe you want to do a 3-year program. Maybe there's a mesh program, and I'm using the wrong term, but maybe there's a program that if you're still in your master's program, or even if you're on this call and you're thinking of applying to a master's program so that you can eventually go into a PhD or EDD or whatever doctoral program. There are programs out there where they mash the two together, for lack of better terms. Maybe you want to do something like that. So make sure you pay attention to the course schemes and the timeliness of the program. What they present as the as possibility of how you complete the program as far as semesters and years are concerned. Look into that and see if that mimics and matches what you have in mind. And I have here, don't cheat the journey. And I want to be careful in clarifying what I mean by that. What I mean is the doctoral journey can be a very, very rich experience. I have seen, and I've talked to professors about it. I said, I remember talking to my department chair at the time a few times saying, people are not interested in actually going back into the community. Now, this was me, and maybe I was self-righteous. But I'm getting to a point. I remember telling her, people are not in this program to really go back to the community and do something and change things. They just want this degree so they can get that job. And I do feel like there were times I felt offended by that, only because I'm a very passionate person, but I have grown to understand that all of our journeys are not going to be the same. However, what I think another part that frustrated me is that I was getting such a rich experience. I was taking advantage of every opportunity. I was talking to scholars that I would not have had the chance to talk to if I was still in Oakland, California. I was exposed to experiences and sights and thoughts that I would not have had. And I was a sponge. I took it in and I grew from that. And so many people don't think of it on those terms. And so I do want to encourage you, it doesn't matter where you are in life. If you're in your 20s, if you're in your 60s, whatever, you can always learn. And it's such a beautiful thing to learn, to allow yourself to be a sponge, to get information and to think critically and to help you make further decisions about your contribution. So I have here to be a sponge and be a pillar. And the pillar part is about this. Stand firm in what you stand for. When I moved to Washington, D.C., and you guys will hear me say 100 times probably tonight, I am from Oakland, California. We are a colorful group of people. We are free. We smile. We are happy most of the time. And we're a little more laid back, but we're community, right? And but I will wear a dashiki. I will wear my head wrapped. I remember there was a time I was wearing bell bottoms because I couldn't and nobody looked at me crazy. Not too many people anyway. When I came to DC, people were, a lot of people were gray, black, blue, white. Well, for me, I thought that was cool. And there were times where I did that, yeah. But I felt like for me, this was me. It doesn't have to be anybody else. For me, I was expressive of my blackness, of my community-ness through my clothing. That's just how I grew up. And that's just how I've been. And I'm firm in that. I'm firm in community building. I don't budge on that. I don't budge on making sure I care about the whole person in each student. That is my teaching motto. My teaching motto is empowering by educating the whole person. I am firm on that. I walked through Howard's door with that, and I'm still at Howard with that same mentality, that same way of thinking. I won't budge. I am students first, period. Period. As long as I'm not doing anything illegal, I'm not setting myself up for something crazy or students, I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that I support students, hands down. And that if I have information to give them, that is sound and is outside of their biology course or whatever other course, and I can give it to them. I can give them gems, and I'm going to do that because I believe in educating the whole person. You know, some people have the mentality of, well, that's not my job. I'm not, that's not who I am. And so that's why I said, be a sponge, learn. I did learn the norms out, you know, on this coast of Howard University of the academic world. And I get it, but I'm also me. And that's the strength. That's my strength. I am myself. And so definitely reflect on that. Now, this is very important too. This is a mistake that many doctoral students make, even people who are applying for doctoral programs, and you know that you will get into a doctoral program. My suggestion is that you don't wait. You don't wait. So most programs start with the basics, you know, the basics of their program, coursework that introduces you to, of course, the heightened part of your discipline, your practice too. And then people will, you know, go through those courses. And mind you, you're doing papers, you're reading and all that kind of stuff. But my recommendation is that you use those classes, you use those assignments to help build what you need when it comes time to work on your dissertation. You're already walking into a program, a doctoral program, with an idea of what you want to study. If you didn't, I'd be very surprised. I don't see how that's even possible, because they ask you questions about your intentions, right, when you apply. And so don't wait. Don't wait until you get to, in my case, it was dissertation 599, where they start talking about, you know, we talk about proposal, and you really go in, when all the other years I was there, I could have been going in, you know what I mean? I did a good part of me waited. I do think I started writing earlier than some of my colleagues, my peers. But I recognized after a while that, wow, I could have been building, you know, the first 3 chapters of my dissertation this whole time. So don't wait. Use the courses to fine tune your topic. You know, ask questions, sit with your faculty members, with your professors. Use the classes, use the assignments to help define what you're looking into. And you can find ways to do this. Some of it will be courses that seem all the way off. But I mean, I promise you, there's something you can use from it for your dissertation. Use your courses to fine tune your research questions. You know, always continually work on that until you get exactly what it is. You construct the questions, your main research question and your sub questions that you'll need to do a complete study of your specific research problem. Use your courses to utilize institutionally granted resources. So definitely when you delve into your doctoral experience, many people will dive into databases, books, printers, software like SPSS and Vivo. Utilize that. SPSS and Vivo, many universities provide that software for their students. You know, these are resources that are very expensive outside of your institution. Use the institution. Your tuition covers it. So definitely utilize these resources, databases. The DC metropolitan area has a wonderful consortium of databases that we use. Tap in, utilize it. You know, you're going to use it for courses, but, you know, always be thinking with the end in mind, which is the beginning and the completion of your dissertation. So, of course, the name of this workshop, this presentation is everything you need to know about dissertation. Obviously, it's a wide and big conversation, but I do and have and will continue to present information that positions you to question, to ask, and to determine. Okay, dissertation is not something that you do when you write the paper. It is a process. Your classes, your decision to go into the doctoral program, to apply, to get accepted, to go to class, to finish your assignments, speak with your faculty members, go to conferences, and all these kind of things that you do during your doctoral journey is all dissertation. It's all a part of the dissertation process. Dissertation is an experience. It's not a document. That document is a conglomerate in a structured way of all that you've been doing to prepare to complete that document. So dissertation is a process, but I want you to be encouraged by the process. So what must be said here is that people get intimidated. Can I do this? Can I actually make this happen? I say absolutely. Absolutely, you can make it happen. I wasn't in high school. I wasn't the best student. It was when I went to college that I realized, wow, I'm smart. That's really how it happened. And so once I got into the groove of higher education, I built on and learned how to really honor my own genius. Okay. Now I'm not going to say there weren't times where there weren't times where I didn't question myself. Absolutely I did. But I kept going back to I kept going back to my foundation, the foundation I understood about myself. And so I was encouraged with the thought of, so I'm this Joycelyn, but I get to be this Joycelyn after this. That's awesome. And so with that in mind, I say be encouraged by the process. It is trying, but once you have gone through a doctoral program, you can do anything. You will know for sure you can do anything. You will know for sure you can do anything because, as I said, and as for me, and I think for most people, it tries every fiber of your being, every fiber. But you will be tried and true. So I want you to ask yourself what seems most challenging as far as this dissertation, this doctoral dissertation journey. Is it the imposter syndrome, thinking that you are not capable, you're not the real thing, you don't match up? Well, let's cancel that now. I don't care if you're not in a doctoral program, you've been rejected. It doesn't matter. The fact that you have even thought of yourself as possibly, the fact that you did and you are in, means you're it. You're it. Now let's make sure you do what it is you should do and complete the process so that you can move on to the next part of your journey. So we can squash any thoughts of being an imposter right now. That is a trick. And when I say it's a trick, because there's narratives, there's certain ways that people talk to, and I'm just being transparent with you, with students, with budding scholars, to make them feel that they haven't added up and they haven't this and that. No. You're growing. You're a budding person. You're a budding scholar, and you're not an imposter. You just get to have a journey like everyone else. And so let's celebrate that, so we can cancel any thoughts of being an imposter. Are you feeling uneasy about being accepted into a doctoral program? For those of you who haven't been accepted, or are you intimidated by the thought of writing a dissertation again? That's something that I can support you with, because it's a valid feeling. Will they accept me? Yes, someone will. And guess what? Most likely the universities you have in mind will accept you. I'm just not, I haven't seen too much where someone applies to a bunch of doctoral programs and don't get into any. I just haven't seen it, because the point is your thoughts, for the most part, people who have considered going into a doctoral program have already or are in process of situating themselves to be accepted into a doctoral program. So I get it. I had that same nervousness. I got accepted. And then guess what? I went through the process. I went to class. I did what I had to do, and I wrote a dissertation. And I am Dr. Hughes. And so there it is. Are you unsure of which doctoral program to apply to? So as I mentioned prior, in this workshop, you definitely want to do some investigating. Which program aligns with what it is that you want to do, who it is that you are, and who it is that you plan to be, what it is that you would like to contribute in your respective field. So make sure you do the work of investigating. Take time. The internet is a powerful tool, and you can also speak with people. Maybe there are people who have already been a student, or have worked, or have a relative, or know someone that works in an institution that you are considering. Will utilize those those people, utilize what they know to help you make decisions. What to study? Again, most people that are considering going into a doctoral program, even a master's program, you have an idea of who it is that you want to be and what you want to do. You know who you are. I mean, you have that idea, but again, people that go into a doctoral program feel as though they need to save everything or address everything with their respective field or discipline. And no, you're going to talk about something specific. You're going to address something specific. And the doctoral process will help you fine tune and be specific about what it is you're going to address in your dissertation, and how your research questions will help you determine how best to conduct your research, and so on. And of course, we'll talk more about that. And then lastly, perhaps you feel overwhelmed with the amount of time you will need to dedicate to your doctoral studies. Valid. Valid. Another reason, again, I would have you to revisit, look at time schemes, look at your life, look at your goals. And let me say this, some people, all of us that go into anything big like a doctoral program, dissertation, with a dissertation in mind, we all have the ideals. Okay. I graduated in 5 years. I knew I was going to be done in 4. It didn't happen that way. Things happen. And so, and all of us are scared about, time. And, I think sometimes, time is what it is, but, we are such a society here in America that is just so driven by the idea of time. And to a certain degree, we should be. But at the same time, if we look at time a little different, as more so as like, this time will help make me the best person, or a better person, then it helps to redirect our thoughts about time. So, what I mean by it, the best way I can talk about that in brevity is, I expected to graduate in 4 years. And when I realized that wasn't going to happen, at first I was hurt, but after a while I started saying, wait a minute, I have a whole nother year to tap into this, that, and the other. And I did. And I'm glad I did. So, definitely look at, your thoughts about time, honor that. And then just think it through, and try not to be overwhelmed with the thought of the amount of time. Is this something that you want to do? Is this something you want to accomplish? Anything that is as important and as dynamic as completing a doctoral program and a dissertation will take time. And so that is what it is, and that can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I do think for myself, going to Howard University, I always tell people, the best decision I could have made for myself when I made that decision. It took time. But the time was going to go anyway. And thankfully, I utilized that time to accomplish the goal of going through a doctoral program and writing a dissertation. So I'm going to ask, for those of you who would like to talk a little more, and tomorrow night I'll do a Q&A so we can talk. I'm a very personable person, and I would love to talk with you, and then talk to about how we can assist you with your doctoral process. It doesn't matter at what, part of your journey you are. We want to support you, whether you're thinking about applying. We can talk to you about that, what to consider, how to consider it. If you're in a doctoral program, I definitely recommend support. It may not be from me or from iDissertate, but I definitely recommend that you create a community of support for yourself for this journey. And so it doesn't matter where you are. We are here to assist. So join me tomorrow, and I would like to talk to you about, the possibilities of supporting you in 2021 with your journey. If you have any questions that showed up in your mind tonight, and you want to talk about it tomorrow, please feel free to email me. You can email me at iDissertate@gmail.com. Please don't be shy. email me, and I would love to discuss it with you. Like I said, we will have a time to talk, and you can ask me anything. But if you have something that you would like for me to address, it would be helpful if you send it ahead of time. If not, you can just log right in tomorrow and join me, and that's just fine too. And so that is the end of my presentation tonight. Again, I thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And so hopefully I will see you tomorrow. Thank you and have a wonderful night.